Hi! Here we are again.
Again, another day of the week.
We are here today to talk about God.
Intimacy with God. I was going to say Sex.Prayers.
I don't even know what the title was.
God. Intimacy with God.
God will work it in.
God will work it in your life.
There's so much double entendre there that I'm just going to avoid and only leave it there.
Yeah, okay. Amazing.
God will work it in. And that's what we're doing today. We're working it in.
We're working it into our lives. Hopefully into your lives as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a pleasure to be here with you. We hope that this serves you in some way when it comes to your relationship.
Yes. So let's get straight into it. Philippians chapter 2.
We jokingly call it the Philippians.
The Philippians.
Philippians.
The Philippians.
Philippians.
Yes. I believe this is a letter from Paul. It's my understanding.
Yes.
Therefore, my...
Let's put his acting narrator voice on. Put on your narrator voice for the people, please.
Thank you. I will.
Very welcome.
You're welcome. Therefore, my dear friends, as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence, continue to work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose. It's a short one.
I love it.
I'm here for that.
Short and potent.
Mm-hmm. So let's work it in. What I want to say that this is, it's how can you show up even in your partner's absence?
Tell the people more.
Okay, so we have this thing called infraction points. It's essentially when you let your stories get the better of you.
It literally is like a fear, a doubt, and insecurity that penetrates your consciousness and then starts to change how you think, feel, and behave.
Mm-hmm. You show up not in presence, but in programming.
That's deep.
Thank you.
Not in presence, but in programming.
Uh-huh.
If you guys need to rewind that and listen to it again and then do that again,
Yeah.
it's powerful.
So rather than showing up in presence, we can show up in programming sometimes. This is when infraction points come in. And in those moments in partnership, when that happens, can you remain in your presence, even though your partner has become a victim of their own programming and they're demonstrating unconscious behavior? Can you remain in presence and allow God to be present with you, to work through you, to will and to act in order to fulfill good purpose?
I love that.
Thank you. It's like I thought about it.
It takes a lot of strength, right? We talked about this last week. I actually think even the week before, there's a theme here around, well, what happens when we're both reactionary, when we both get in it. Who's the one that can be that sliver of awareness more, just a tip more awareness.
Just the tip.
Just the tip in order to maintain and hold the tether.
Yeah.
To hold
to
the pull.
return back. Can you get back to it? And I love that it wrote this. So it says the will and to who works in you to will and to act. Okay, so there's tantric teachings that there's 6, but I'll speak into the 3 later powers of God, which is the power of will, the power of knowing, the power of action. So can you find the will to return to the tether of love? Can you use the knowledge that you've acquired from places to do that? And can you take the appropriate action to bring that into fruition?
Yeah. What would you say some practical ways people could do that would be?
Depends on what you need as an individual. Some people need space.
Yeah.
Some people need love, as in like physical affection. I don't know what you need. Maybe you don't even know what you need, but there's an opportunity there to figure it out. And if you haven't figured it out, there's an opportunity to work with people who can help you figure it out. But knowing what it is that you need, what do you need?
What do I need? Here, it depends on the circumstance.
Oh, even more nuanced.
So, I know, right? The complexities.
Yes.
So, Depends on the circumstance, and for me it depends on the wound. If it's like I'm poked in a very tender place, I will notice that my belly button, I will contract. Right? I'll kind of, and that's like a safety mechanism, but also a defense mechanism, a little bit. But it's also like, I feel safer with myself, and so until I can feel safer with other, I'll need to take that space. And until I give myself enough space to process it, I may need more space than just 30 minutes or the moment. It really depends on how sensitive I'm feeling.
I 100% get that, because as a by nature avoidant, the safest place for me is by myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to deal, and as a reflector where I absorb everything, I don't have to deal with other energy. I can just regroup.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, though I think in my childhood I was definitely disorganized attachment, so I would flux between avoidant and anxious.
Is that what that is? Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's disorganized attachment. Just a little cliff note here. Little subset is where basically the attention that you received was so disorganized, it was so chaotic that you would bounce between the different attachments, because at any one moment, any one attachment could actually cause you harm. So you would flux. You would go between them because you weren't really sure.
This speaks into a theory I have, which is we can exhibit different attachment style depending on the relationship that we're in. Like for some people you'll be in your avoidant, and for other people you'll be in your anxious, and that it's not fixed and stationary.
Right.
At our core, at our essence, we're one more than the other, but we have both.
Yeah.
So I like that.
And this really depends on like who your caretakers were growing up.
Yes.
That energy will ultimately dominate what attachment theory you had. And those evolve over time, right? Like we move into a more secure attachment, especially when we're single, we're like, yeah, I'm secure, right? And then you start dating somebody and you're like, wow, I am not secure. I am not as secure as I thought I was.
And then people can be like, oh, this is bringing up my shit, I'm out.
Avoid it.
Or like, I'm leaving this dynamic because it's bringing, I was secure, and in this relationship I'm apparently not, so this is an unhealthy relationship. No, it's just an opportunity to work on your shit.
Yeah, of course. And trusting that the person in front of you can hold you. And this comes from deep conversations, this comes from emotional vulnerability, this comes from talking about your traumas, talking about your past.
And having God at the heart of it.
Having God at the heart of it.
That's what I feel.
In your personal practice, but also in your connection. You know, it was funny actually. We're hosting an event coming up, and somebody in the community reached out, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm confused about this whole God angle that you're using, and it kind of turns me off." And I laughed because it's like, well, it's not really an angle. We really do see sex as like a spiritual practice, and our relationship as a devotionally spiritual practice, because inevitably relationships bring us closer to our core essence.
Yes, our essence nature.
Our essence nature.
That speaks into what I was learning yesterday or restudying yesterday in tantric teaching, is everything is God. So you can't get more God than things are right now.
Yeah.
It's not an angle, it's just what it is. Whatever you want to, ascribe to that. The turn-off is we will have stories related to what that word and that label means.
Religion, all the punishment, all the sin, all of that. But we can't deny, and I talk about this with all my clients and all my classes, if you guys have been with me forever, I say this all the time, that we cannot deny the element of mystery that is existence. Outside of all the subsets of systems, there is the eternal system, which is innately mysterious. We have not even come close to figuring it out. Quantum physics is still like very superficial level, even though we as humans, I think, see it as like, oh, so deep.
Well, we get it intrinsically, without being like
because
words.
We're a part of it.
Yes, it's who we are. So we understand it at our essence, even if we can't articulate it in words, because words are an approximation. They're never going to be able to express sufficiently what it is to actually understand it.
Well, they're just labels to help us identify and feel some sense of safety.
Yeah. So tie that into this. Tie that into not only in my presence, but now much more in my absence. Continue to work on your salvation.
Continue to work on your salvation, what you need to return to love, what you need to do to alleviate your own suffering. We talked a little bit about practical examples for this last week as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I liked about this week's sermon was about the opportunities that are available in that absence. And I think in relationship, it can feel so easy to notice a contraction and feel like there's an absence of love. There's an absence of presence. And oh my gosh, all the emotional turmoil that comes up in that space is literally gold. Y'all, it's gold for your relationship. It's gold.
It can be.
If you turn it into that.
Yes.
You have to alchemize it into that.
Yes.
You have to be able to be like, wow, this steaming pile of what feels like shit is actually leading me to my liberation.
It's a pile of gold shit.
Mushrooms grow out of shit, y'all. Psychedelic mushrooms. So, just saying.
Sexadelia. But there's truth in that, I believe. It's what lens do you want to view it through? What do you want to see it as? You get the choice. Do you want to see what challenge you're experiencing as your demise, or do you want to see it as your inspiration to rise and overcome? Do you want to see it as the pile of poop, or do you want to see it as the gold that strengthens and enhances you and your relationship?
And also trusting, like when we talk about spirit or we talk about God, trusting that there is so much wisdom made available in the absence of something. In that moment where I feel like, for example, if David pulls away from me and my anxious attachment gets triggered, in the absence of his love and of his attention and of his care, whatever comes up in my experience is there to be illuminated. It's there for me to look at that and go, what am I making this mean? What are the stories? What are the voices in my head saying about it? What do I know to be true? And if I don't know something to be true, how can I ask questions so that I can get that clarity? And I think this speaks back into the importance of healthy, clear communication and also how you deal with conflict in your relationship, because now I know that if David needs to take space, he'll address that. He'll go, hey, this is really challenging for me, and I need to, best case scenario, I need to go take space for a little bit. I'm not abandoning you. I still love you, and I just need space to process. My nervous system goes, okay, so in that absence, I feel safe to go to God. I feel safe to do my part of the work to return to love. Yeah.
And even, best case scenario, I have the awareness, I've done enough work to stay close enough to the tether of love that I have the ability to express that and let it be received in an effective way.
Yeah.
And even in the absence of that, because we have gone through this and communicated through our challenges and we know each other and we have the tether of love there and we know that it's strong, you know that that's true.
Yeah.
Even if it's not explicitly expressed, you know that even in the absence, that presence of love of God is there.
Yeah.
Because we've had the conversation.
And this really asks, what's coming through in this moment is like, if you've had issues in your relationship for a while, and it might feel like it's really challenging to return to that tether, or it might not feel like it is possible to return to that tether. I feel like the scripture is really asking is like, can you trust in God? Can you trust in the spirit of all things enough to trust that even if that relationship were to end, that is preparing you and setting you up for the next level of your next relationship, of your own revolution and evolution. So again, it's like, even if you've been in a season where you feel like your relationship is crumbling and you don't know if it's repairable, you don't know how you're going to repair it, you feel exhausted, tired, etc., how can you lean into God and in that moment trust that all of this pile of poo, right? Pile of shit is like, oh my God, I'm losing my relationship. My life is crumbling. I think of the Tower card in tarot, y'all. It's like, oh my God, everything is coming out from underneath me. Everything is crumbling. What do I do? Those are those moments that God asks you to rely on Him and trust in Him, and also tap back into your own inner resourcefulness to overcome it. Do you want to be a victim or a victor, right? That's what comes up for me of that story.
Yeah, I want to speak into that a little bit more if from a tantric point of view. Is, maybe you don't like the word God in the sense that it's something external to you. It's this...
Or it's a man.
Yeah.
Or it's a white man. Maybe it's a black goddess.
But can you get over all of your stories and just return to that essence of you that's irreducible, unchangeable, and always there? That part of you that you can always rely on, the part of you that hasn't changed in your entire life, even though the stories attached to who you are, name, age, the way you look, everything, job, all of that is not who you are.
Truly.
Right. And when you can return to that essence of who you are, that being God, the external God is kind of just like a placeholder.
Yeah.
But that's really what we're pointing to. When you can get back to that, then that empowers you to alchemize the poop into gold.
I love what you're saying about this returning to essence. I did a women's thing this past weekend, and I actually used choice and containment with them, so I'll share this with all of you because it's an amazing tool. And so before Sensual Magic, we're all talking about tapping into your femininity, and how sometimes there's all these limits, societal beliefs, cultural beliefs, religious indoctrines, all these things that impact whether or not you feel safe in your femininity. This is also true for masculinity, right? Masculine have their own experience, as well as all the fluidity in between, right? We all have these experiences where something has impacted the way that we think or feel about ourselves. And so I took them on this meditation around what it would be like to return to the essence sans all of these layers, right? And I took them on this meditation of imagining that they're taking off one layer and then they're taking off the next layer and noticing what that layer is and then putting it in a box and then putting it on a shelf. So that way when we actually dropped into the experience, they were at the core their essence, which is playful, it's innocent, it's love, it's boundless. There really are no boundaries. The soul has no boundaries. So that they could really truly drop into the fullness of the experience without all those limits. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
Every woman was like, wow, this is like, thank you so much for doing that to start it out. And sometimes we need that in relationship also, where it's like, I'm in this challenge. Okay, how can I sit here? How can I witness and make consciously aware the stories and what I feel like is going? How can I take those and go, thank you so much. I'm going to put you in a box and I'm going to move you off to the side so that I can be with the truth of myself and God in this moment, with myself in love in this moment to get clarity.
And that's tricky. It's, they speak of it in the teachings. It's a tricky thing to do because it's destabilizing. When you start to remove all the stories and you remove all of the layers,
It can be rough.
Yeah.
There's breakthroughs in there. There's massive breakthroughs in there, though.
And I was speaking into this morning, it's realizing that you're not the story that you're telling. You're not even the character that you're playing. You're not the actor acting it out. You're the one behind all of that.
Yeah.
That we're all just one actor playing a multitude of roles through different eyes. And when you get back to that essence, you can then create the actor that you're portraying and the character that you're embodying and then the story that you want to create.
Yeah, you can utilize all of those things. They're tools.
Yeah.
They're tools into expansion and into leading into that edge. And so something that it talks about is like, what does it say? To work out your salvation with fear and trembling, right? To step into uncharted territory of the unknown, and do so with that mentality is so powerful, because it's like there's an edge there, and healing is such an experience of expanding and contracting. And so we have these expansive experiences until our nervous systems feel vulnerable, and they go, this is like, okay, now I need to be with that, and I need to take 2 beats. I need to take 2 steps back and start to actually consider what I actually need to feel safe, to work that out.
And it is scary. It is fearful and trembling because you're stepping into the unknown. You're letting go of the illusion of security of the story that you've been attached to.
Or these identities that we've been attached to.
And so can you tie that into partnership and into relationship?
I think you did a great job of doing that at the beginning, where, I mean, it's working out your salvation. So yes, you are in union, and it requires its own level. Each independent person needs to do this work, these practices, in order to find what they need to become liberated from their current state of suffering. And so it really is up to each of you as an individual to think about what are those things. And I think us going into attachment theory a little bit was a great way. So it's like, when you notice that you're in that anxious, clingy energy, what are some things that part of you, and you can have a conversation with yourself. You can go, hey, that part of me that likes to feel anxious, in those moments, what would support you in coming back to safety and coming back to love?
And doing that as a unit, when you're in a very conscious, secure, safe, present, loving space.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we recognize that we're dropping into, these spaces, these infraction points.
Yeah.
I want to address this when we're in a stable position, so that next time we know how to deal with it better.
Exactly. And sometimes both of you can facilitate this conversation. But if you don't know what those things are, this is a beautiful invitation to start to consider what they are, so that way when you have that conversation coming up, you can safely express, when I'm starting to feel clingy, this is actually what I'm asking for. When I'm starting to feel avoidant, this is actually what I'm needing in that moment. Having those conversations sober when you're not in a reactive space is amazing. And you will need to have the conversation more than once, y'all. This is not a one and done thing. Like, just like your relationships evolve, you also have to continue to embody this. It's like, I need you to remember that when you take space, please remind me that I'm not being abandoned. You will have to have that until you and your partner get in a rhythm of what challenge looks like for you and what tools support you in overcoming that. And
these conversations aren't easy. Notice if you get defensive when you have them, even with yourself. It's like, I don't do that, or I don't need that, or no, I don't. The story is going to want to defend itself and not even recognize itself. Okay, so if you need support, that's where you reach out to people who can support you in that, or head over to the community that we have. We have tools in there to support you in doing this. It's not easy. If it were easy, you'd be doing it already.
Yeah.
I feel complete with that.
I feel complete with that also.
If there was anything that jumped out at you, that resonated, that felt like it was useful, then let us know. Write it in the chat. And feel free to reach out and ask us any questions. That's also welcome.
Yeah, amazing. There will be lots of links there. You can join our free community that has podcast episodes, resources that are amazing, whether you're in partnership or not. We also have a global community, so you get to connect with people from all over the world. So that will be down there. And if you're interested in booking a call to chat with us about how we can support your relationship, there will also be a link in the description for that as well.
Boom.
Have an amazing week, everybody.
Yes. Happy today. Now. Yes.
In this moment.
Bye.
Bye.